Hi, everyone. Everyone's moving on over to here from the pre-event stage. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mission Fireside Chats with David Dettmer, author and EVP at Rev.com, who's joining us today for a conversation with Mission CEO, Stefan Rossi. Are we all here? We're good? Awesome. Welcome. So today we're going to be discussing David's career path and journey from an engineer to VP of engineering at multiple companies, where he's built and scaled numerous engineering teams from scratch. He and Stefan will be discussing strategies for optimizing engineering teams and personal career growth. We had about 90 members register for today's event. People are coming in from all across the global network and joining us from 5 continents. That's pretty cool. You'll see there's a chat that's firing up right now. Feel free to say hi and where you're joining us from today. Before we get started, I've got a few quick housekeeping notes. You'll see on the top right corner your screen here, there's an icon. You can add a profile picture, take a selfie. We ask that people add their name, maybe your Slack handle. There's an option to also add your GitHub or your LinkedIn. So feel free to connect with people today, see who's online, and maybe reach out. On the right-hand column below the chat icon, you'll see an icon with a question mark. You can submit questions for the Q&A period with David there. We've reserved the last 15 minutes of today's session for the Q&A, so submit your questions there at any time, and we'll try to get it to as many of them as we can in the time allowed. Anyone who submits a question, or if you invited a friend today using the link that went out last week, you've been entered to win a cool Mission swag pack, including a copy of David's book, Raising Engineers. And we'll announce those winners early next week. If at any time you need technical assistance today, there's a help button also on that side panel, and we have some backstage wizards who can help you out. One last thing is that we do ask that any use of the chat be kept professional, respectful, and courteous to everyone here today and on the topic of today's conversation. So please, without further ado, I'd like to bring up David, who's joining us from Austin, Texas, and Stefan, who's located in Montreal, Quebec. Welcome, David.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. I'll give the floor over to you, Stefan. So enjoy, everyone.
Thank you, Robin. Hi, David.
How are you doing? I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Doing great. Welcome this Mission Fireside Chat. And obviously, thank you so much for joining us today. I am super excited to have you here.
Well, I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm waiting for like a little fire or something in between us that we can roast, like we can technically roast marshmallows or something.
That's good. So, we're talking about it, but I'm even more excited now that I finally read your book called Raising Engineers. So for our audience, because I'm going to talk about your book and you're going to talk about your book. So it's a book that talks about how to hire engineers, make them love their work experience, how to make them better and happier, how to get the best of your software engineering team. In your book, you made it sound super simple, but I know that to get there, I know complex it is to put together 25 years of experience and kind of create this, magical recipe. It sounds simple, but it's complex. Honestly, it was a great read. Really, really enjoyed it.
I appreciate that.
It's short, it's pragmatic. You're giving super actionable tips. And I'm pretty sure that anyone's going to read your book is going to want to join your team at Rev. All right?
Maybe there was a little bit of an underlying reason to write the book, but
don't say too much. So to me, it's really a must read for non-technical founders. And I think that was your primary audience at first, right?
No, that's correct.
Yeah. But reading it, to me, it's definitely a must read for 20 years experience CTOs. But I think even more important, and this is why I want to talk about your book today, I think it's a must read for any software engineer at any stage of her or his career. Because to me, reading this book will make them realize, what it is to work in a great environment. And I think that will give them talking points to to challenge the statu quo in their company. Am I right?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
You get a lot of advice when you go to take on this venture, right? And the number one piece is like pick one audience, but then think about the other audiences that may want to read this book as you're writing it. And I definitely took a point of view of really helping founders. People, the reason I wrote it was because every day I talk to founders, and the number one thing they tell me is like, oh my gosh, I just raised this money and I don't know how to like really build a team. I don't know. I have a couple of friends that helped me build the first version, but now I need to go hire 10, 20, 30, 50 engineers, and I don't even know where to start. And so I've had lots and lots of those conversations, and somebody told me, well, if you're having a conversation over and over again, you should write a book about it, right? And so that was really what drove sort of the first pen to paper. But as I wrote it, I kept hearing like, man, I really wish I'd heard this when I was first becoming an engineer. And then, oh man, I really wish I had heard this when I started managing my first team and when I started building my first group of engineers. And so I just kept that in mind as I wrote the book.
Fantastic. Great results. Great results. So for people listening to us right now, the book is called Raising Engineers from David Dettmer. Read it. So now, first question first, tell us a bit about you, about your career path, David, how you ended up EVP of engineering and product, right?
Yes, and product, yeah.
Maybe we can talk about this combination of engineering and product later, but I think people wants to know how you get there.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of us who are probably on this call, we all have this like entrepreneurial bug inside of us. And I graduated from college back in the mid 90s, and even prior to graduating from college, I worked at some small startups that were just, hey, we need this app that does X, Y, and Z, and I would go and write code for them. And I loved the camaraderie and the working on the small teams and focusing on one problem and going from there. And so I joined a startup right out of college, and
wow.
And learned all the stuff that was happening in the 90s about how to write code. But what came pretty natural to me was like working with customers and working with individuals and just sort of being that layer between what do we need to build and how do we build it, and then actually going and building it, right? And I really leaned into communication and thinking about other people's careers, and that kind of just jump started my career in being more of a leader of engineers versus somebody who's writing the code, right? I also found that there were way more talented people in writing code than I was, and so you lean into your strengths, and that's where my path took me. And I had a few startups too that I ran, but I just kept coming back to only wanting to focus on the product and then the engineering part of the organization.
Makes sense. And this is how, I've read your I read your resume, so it's pretty impressive. So when did you join Rev.com, and did you join as a product and engineering first?
No, it's kind of funny. I think everywhere where my title has the word product in it, it ends up just swelling underneath me.
Yeah.
I usually join an organization that needs engineering focus, right? And even today, if I were to go and join another company, I'd probably go join the engineering piece, because that's what they usually need the most, right? It's like way behind the curve where the rest of the organization is at. But when I joined the Rev almost 8 years ago now,
Oh wow.
I came on because the CEO came to me and he was looking for some advice, and I just fell in love with the mission here, and I said I want to help you build that, right? And I think they had like 6 engineers, right? And now we have about 120, 130 here at Rev. So I just stayed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I started running engineering, and then as it evolved, there are all kinds of thinking around should product engineering be under one management structure, or should they be like constantly sort of like a slight friction between the two, right?
Yeah.
Kind of leveling each other up. right? I believe that product engineering should be married at the hip, and they should be one team. It's just kind of the way my thinking is, and I eventually bring that together. The person who was in charge of product here ended up going off and doing something else, and that created the opportunity. But even when he was here, we had an amazing relationship, and we both thought that's the way it should work. And so it always has just been a place where product engineering have been more married at the hip versus trying to fight each other on like, no, we need to go build out more tech debt. No, we need more product, and then kind of always meeting in the middle versus product at Rev. Product and engineering think about like, how can we satisfy our customers, and also how can we create a platform that's going to be long lasting and maintainable and scalable and secure and all of that other great stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I like. I really like in your book when you're talking about how you pitch Rev to your applicants, right? The mission statement when you say, well, Rev is not just about that. Rev is about making people make a living from their home, right? Helping people make a living. This is how you pitch Rev to your engineer, which I think it's right? In this kind of new labor marketplace.
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And every company is different at the end of the day. And so you always have to ask yourself, what's changing because we exist? How am I going to have an impact on the world? What are people's lives? How are they going to be different because my company exists? And when you can answer those questions and you can really, verbalize that to other people, you'll find people who are aligned with you, right? And when you find those people, they will move mountains for your organization, and that's the real beauty behind that.
100%. 100%. One question we like to ask to our guest is, did you have some mentors, that help you along the way during your career?
Wow. That's yes, absolutely. Right. 100%. I'm definitely the type of, everybody has a different way of learning. Right. I'm definitely one of the way I learn is I like to, pick at like the pieces that I know that are going to help me sort of along the way, and listen and learn. My job is twofold. One is actually building and creating an engineering team, right? And in that realm, there was just a lot of like practice and failing and learning and tweaking, and then more using a community of people to like, hey, what did you do and what worked for you, and trying to like learn faster that way. And then the other half of my job is really being part of an executive team. And I think that's where having relationships with venture capitalists and other CEOs has really taught me how to uh, advocate for my team, but also leave the engineering product title at the door, and just be a part of the executive team and figuring out what's the best thing for the company, and how can I help because you got to understand, on an executive team you have a marketing group, you have a marketing person, you have a CFO, you have a CEO, you have somebody in charge of legal, you have somebody in charge of sales. They have never run an engineering team. Right. And so like being able to communicate things to them in a way that they understand why things are taking as long as they do, or why things need to be prioritized in the way they need to be prioritized. That's also a skill and an art. And I think that's where I probably got more mentorship than anything. It's just working with other CEOs at other companies and thinking about like, how do I be a part of this team and help this team understand the complexities of what we're building, but still also be a partner from a strategy perspective for the rest of the organization.
Make a lot of sense. Like you said, I think you started very early building startup. But in my experience, it's pretty hard to see a clear path. From being an engineer to become an engineering manager. So for you, I think the transition. I'm not sure you really had a transition because you probably started as a product builder, so it was natural for you to then to be a VP Eng, or but Do you have any advice for people who would like to transition for pure software engineer work to a leadership role?
Raise your hand, because most organizations need more of that, right? All you have to do is say, I want to do this, and good organizations will invest in you and give you those opportunities when they arise. Now, look, if there's not a position for an engineering manager, don't hold it against
Yeah.
the company for not promoting you the day you like
Yeah.
ask for it. But good organizations will start getting you involved sooner than later, right? I mean, I have an engineering management Slack channel that all my engineering managers are part of, right? And we have conversations around all the things that managers need to talk about. But when we have opportunities like roundtables where we're discussing a book, or if we're bringing people together and wanting to talk about management training and things like that, we bring along the people who have raised their hands and said, I'm interested in this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't raise your hand, the company won't know. They won't know how to fold you in and start teaching you the things that you need to learn, right? The other half of that is asking for opportunities just to mentor other people today, right?
Mhm.
Everybody needs to be mentored. Even the most like senior person, when they join a company day one, they don't know how the code is organized. They don't know how to where's the restroom, right? They don't know all the simple things in the company. And you can definitely be the mentor to that person to get them up to speed. And at the end of that process, if you find you got a lot of joy out of watching somebody grow, then you have those, because that's really the difference, right? As an individual contributor, as an engineer, you get a lot of joy out of seeing your code build and seeing it get put into production, and then seeing users use your stuff, right? And you get a lot of joy out of stepping over your skis a little bit and solving problems that you haven't solved before, right? As an engineering manager, it's a little different. You get a lot of joy out of seeing somebody progress in their career. You get a lot of joy out of seeing somebody solve the problems that they haven't solved before. I mean, I hire a lot of people out of college, and man, when they join, right, they have the basics, but there's a lot of things they don't know. And a few years later, when I see them start to mentor other people, oh my gosh, my heart is filled, right? And that's when when that drives you and that creates an enjoyment for you. That's when that's the direction you want to go in, where you want to become somebody who's really helping up. When you want to go in a direction where you're helping others grow in their careers and just become better engineers at the end of the day.
Fantastic answer. Love it. So that's a good transition for my next topic. In your book, you talk a lot about growing as an engineer. So we have a lot of engineer right now listening to us. So I really like to talk about what is it to grow as a software engineer. To me, so it's about two dimensions, right? So growing your hard skill, but equally and even maybe more important is growing your soft skills. Getting the right mindset. There's a part that there's really a section in your book you talk about. I really like. But first, let's talk about growing your hard skill. Getting better at your craft. In your book, you refer several times to the framework of purpose, autonomy, and mastery. Mostly as a way to keep your engineers happy, motivated, engaged. It's a concept that's been described by Daniel Pink in his book Drive. So what it says basically is that people always look for three things, right? Purpose. I want to do things that matters to me and kind of have positive impact, right? Autonomy. I don't need to have someone telling me how to do things. I need to figure this out by myself, right? And finally, mastery. So I want to be the best at my craft, and I want to be recognized for that, right? Is that right? Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. Yep.
So
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think you're right. The purpose and autonomy is something that you need to partner with your organization to create clarity around, right? Understanding and autonomy. So purpose is the one where it's focused around a mission, or what is the organization trying to accomplish this year, and what are you working on that actually builds up to that and supports that. Pretty clear and simple, right? Autonomy is a more I call it like an earned autonomy, right? Again, you come in day one. I don't give you the keys to the castle and then say, hey, I'll come back 6 months and you let me know how the company is doing.
Yeah.
Right. That's one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is you come here. I'm gonna build out all of these interfaces and tell you exactly what the methodology should be underneath each one of them, and you just go and plug and play. And nobody wants to do that, right? Nobody wants to just be told exactly how to like solve the problem.
No.
Right. But there's some in between, and as you grow as an engineer and as you create credibility at an organization and you create more trust, you earn more autonomy at the end of the day.
100%.
So it's a two-way street. You have to be willing to put your sort of your heart on the table and say, I want to earn this autonomy, but then you should pay attention to the organization giving you that capability at the same time.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And you talk about something else in your book. I think we're gonna talk about it later. It's about being a factory worker while also being an artist.
That's right. Yeah.
Productivity versus creativity. I really like it, and it ties to autonomy, I guess.
No, exactly. Because at the end of the day, we still have to ship code and put stuff in front of customers. I mean, we all know we can
timeline, budget
for the rest of our lives.
Totally. Yeah, totally.
But so the last piece, really quick, you can talk about that mastery and the hard skills. That's where I was going. Is that where you wanted to go?
Exactly. So what I want to say is that I find this framework super powerful. So one thing that I like to talk about right now is mastery. So one thing that you say in your book when you're advising founder and technical leaders, and I quote you. So last, make a real effort to understand their goals, so your engineer's goal, and not just work-related goals. So you will find that many engineers just want to be better engineers. If you ask a doctor what they want to be in 5 years, the answer is often a better doctor, right? And it's the same with engineers. What engineers mean is that they must want to be able to solve harder problems with autonomy and with greater efficiency. That's
you read the book or something.
Very, 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 very well put. So to me, it's spot on. So now I have a question for you. What is your advice for all our engineers listening to us right now? What's the best way to master your craft? How I become a better engineer if I'm not on your team at Rev? If I'm on my own, how I do that?
Yeah, I mean, look, there are sort of three areas that I see as an engineer that you're always constantly working on. One is just kind of the stuff that needs to get done that you know how to do, right? You're very, very good at it, right? The reality is that you can never leave that bucket. Text needs to be changed, colors need to be changed. A simple query needs to be built and wired up to your application. You have to do those things, and so if you're constantly thinking, I've got to 100% optimize for mastering my craft, and I'm never going to do stuff that I know how to do already. That's just not the reality of being an engineer, and we all know that, right? Yeah. The other piece is the stuff that you have done before, but you haven't done it that much. I like to talk about like being a pilot. Just because I landed a plane once doesn't mean that like my instructor gives me the keys and says, "Okay, see you later. Go fly upside down over the sea. You can do this all day long." There is this idea of like the more often you do something, the better you will get at it, right? And so just because you've done something once, don't shy away from doing it again. Practice. I don't know how many times and everybody knows this. Somebody gives you a problem, you start to work on it. By the time you finish it, you wish you could go back and start over again, because that like how you first started architecting this problem is probably not the way you would do it if you could start over again, right? And that's the point of like doing things over and over and over again. Like I want to land a plane 100 times and just get really great at it. And then last but not least, and this is really where it's important, and I think a lot of us do this naturally, but just making sure we're stepping over our skis as often as we possibly can, looking for the thing that we aren't comfortable doing, looking for whether it be a different language or a different architecture or some kind of different integration or whatever it is. the better we can get at solving those problems, like what you said, with more efficiency, and even less help, right? I mean, look, don't bang your head up against the wall, for days when you can call a friend and say, hey, look, I can't get this to work. There's something really trivial. And he's like, oh, just put a -1 on the end and it'll work. Right. And you're like, oh, I could not find that anywhere. Right. Like that's not helpful at all. Right. But like, just, every, always, bang your head up against the wall for a reasonable amount of time and then go ask for help. And you'll find that those are the things that will connect the proteins in your brain and just help you become a better engineer. So looking for that over the ski problem is something that you'd always also need to be doing. So those are the sort of the three categories of things I talk about. I know the first one's not helping you, but it helps what you're trying to accomplish. But the other two are things that are really going to help you master your craft.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's something I like in your book when we're talking about how you hire an engineer, and the first question you ask yourself is this person nice or kind? Something like this, right? I like it because I actually do the same, But I'm asking another question that ties down to what you just say: is this person nice and kind, and is she or he intellectually curious? What
Yes.
I want to see and what people I want to work with needs to be curious, because being curious means that, like you said, you're going to go out of your comfort zone and you're gonna want to learn constantly. You will be in constant improvement. Is that right? Is that something that you ask yourself too?
100%. The nice and kind is extremely important, and we can cover all of that. But I find that not everybody comes to the table and has the words purpose, autonomy, and mastery, right? But as I have conversations with them, you can see that these three things are important. And there are times when individuals get to a point in their career where they have other things that are really driving them. They're mountain climbers. They like to jump out of planes.
Yeah.
They're raising kids or whatever it is, right? And they've kind of like said, you know what, this is my source of income, right? And I'm not investing in here anymore. I'm a producer. I can write code. I can get that done, and I can put money in my bank, and then I can go do other things. And that's all fine. That's all fine also. But when I'm building a team, I definitely I lean towards the individuals that are really trying to invest in themselves from a mastery perspective and want to grow their careers and want to grow their knowledge, right? Not just trying to grow their careers from a dollar perspective. They're really trying to grow themselves as an engineer, right? Because the rest comes. It all comes naturally.
Totally. The rest will follow.
The rest will follow. That's right.
All the time. Excellent. So we talk about getting better at your craft, but that growing as an engineer is not just about technical skills, right? And mastery. In your book, you have a section about creating a culture of constant improvement, and in this section, you talk to engineering leaders about things to think about when leveling up engineers, right? And here's what you say. Here are some other things you should think about when leveling up your engineer. So, are their interaction with the team? Are they contributing by providing feedback on pull requests on a consistent basis? Is there clarity in their communication? Are they focused at meetings? Do they show up on time, right? Do they meet their commitments or raise their hand when commitments are at risk? I love it. At Mission, we have a similar framework we're currently implementing. It's a trust and performance diagram. I don't know if you heard about it. I think it's been created by Navy SEALs, but it's very, very simple to understand. You want to work with people that are good at their craft, so that's performance. But you want to be working with people that are reliable and trustworthy. And of course, for Navy SEAL, that's probably the most important thing, right? Can you rely on your teammate, right? I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't think that much about this trust factor. Are you trustworthy? So maybe can you explain, why it matters so much to be a good team player and not just a good coder? And I'm sure you have very good stories about people who were incredible developers and at the same time kind of jerks. Can you tell a bit about that stories and how it impacted the team dynamics in general?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, we all know there are there are geniuses out there that, sometimes, don't always have the personality traits that it works well in a team. And uh, it's not necessarily saying that I would never hire these people, because, like, I mean, sometimes, you get somebody who can really, really, really perform and really help your organization move forward. Right. But I think that's the key thing. And at the end of the day, we all need to think about, like, how as a team can we, how can we accomplish the mission that we're all setting out to do. Right. And if you think externally like that, and you think about your teammates, and you think about the company, and you think about your users, right, it's one of our actual values at Rev. But you become more of a servant rather than somebody who's thinking about yourself all the time. And if you fully embrace this idea of becoming a servant to your team or to your users, then you start to think about, like, how can I make sure I'm communicating well? How can I make sure that, there's trust with us, right? Trust is a big thing, right? And I talk a little bit about in the book. It's like getting your car fixed, right? You have to understand you have a skill that, the people you're working for don't have, and they really don't understand it, right? And so, if you have a problem that you're trying to solve, and if you could probably tell them this is going to take 6 months, and they just have to believe you, even if it takes 2 days, right? But is that really a relationship you want to have? If I go get my car fixed, I want to know that the mechanic is doing everything they can so that my car is safe and it works and it drives off the lot, and he's not charging me too much, right? And I think that healthy relationship that you have with your teammates is one that actually will end up being one that helps you, like, solve your problems faster, have a better working environment, and just overall, every that trust, it helps you be able to be honest about things. And when you're wrong, and that's okay. That's the real thing here, right? There used to be this mentality of people like, well, how long will this take? And if you really think it's going to take 2 days, you should say 4,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
Right.
Yeah.
But the reality is wouldn't you rather have a relationship where you can say it's going to take 2, and when a day and a half goes by and you uncover a big problem that you didn't know was going to happen, and you have the trust and ability to go back and say, hey, look, we uncovered this thing, and now it's going to take us another 3 days, right? Let's problem solve on this. Do we really need to get this down tomorrow? Because then we'll pull back features, or we'll push with a little bit of edge cases not solved for. I mean, let's work on this together, right? And you'd rather have that trust versus trying to manipulate the people you were working for or working with to sort of, like, I said 4, I get it done in 2, now I look like a hero. That's not a strong relationship.
100%. 100%. I like to talk a bit because I think we have 10 minutes left before the Q&A. I like to touch on engineering and leadership best practices, because right now we have team leaders who are listening to us. So let's try to give them some actionable advice on how to motivate, or like you said in your team, not demotivate them. Because you're talking about this story about this football coach that's saying that someone is asking him a question, how do you motivate your team? And he say, that's not my job to motivate them. They're already motivated. My job is to not demotivate them, right?
Right. It's not to demotivate them.
Exactly. So,
I mean, everybody, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, everybody can think about their first day on their first job, or their first day on any job.
Yeah.
Right? That is like the most excited, right? And what does everybody want to do is they want to come in and, like, be the best that they can be, and prove that the money that you're getting paid is you're worth it, right? That's what you come in and you want to prove it. So, like, that day one, that person's manager, they don't need to, like, motivate them anymore, right? They just need to keep them. They need to keep that level of excitement, right? And really, this goes back to the purpose and autonomy and the mastery, right? It's constantly keeping people understanding why they're building what they're building, tying the what they're building back to the purpose of either the company, the organization, or the team's mission, right? Giving those engineers the ability to become better at their craft, and that goes along with the autonomy, because they can't do that unless you give them the opportunity to make mistakes, right? But last but not least, it's having a lot of clarity around, you know, I'm your partner as your leader, and as your leader, I have two pieces of responsibility. One is to make sure the team delivers what we say we're going to deliver, but the second is to help you continue to grow, right? And I can't do that unless I can clearly point out where you need improvement,
Yeah.
right? Um, at the team level, there's all kinds of way of talking about that, but at the individual level, it's looking at, both the technical stuff that you're delivering and diving into that and learning from that, but then also like how you, like we talked about, how you interact with the team and making sure that you are contributing at the level that you need to contribute at.
100%. And you have something to say about that in your book, and it sounds super obvious, but I'm pretty sure 99% of the software engineer manager don't use it. You talk about knowing your engineer first, as the way to understand who they are and what they want to do, and I don't know if it's something, and I want to know if it's something that you've implemented at Rev and at your previous company, but you have three simple questions. What's on your mind? How could be supporting you more? Are you working on things that are making you a better engineer? Super
Right.
simple. Is that something that your engineering manager are asking their team member every day? How do you implement that?
I hope so. Of course, I'm not in there one-on-ones. And look, we are constantly working on management, and everybody's always trying to learn to become better managers, and we're trying new things. But the those three words, make me a servant to you, or those three questions, sorry, make me a servant to you first, right? Versus me coming in and being your warlord and just telling you exactly what you need to do and exactly how you need to work. I look at managers, like I said, as a partner in helping people progress in their career.
Yeah.
Right. And so, yes, what's on your mind is one of my favorite things versus like, how are you doing? Right. Oh, I'm doing well. But what's on your mind? Oh, really? What else is on your mind? Right? Take a second. It's okay. You don't need to know the answer right now. And man, when somebody takes 30 seconds and thinks about what's really on their mind, you'd be surprised. Oh my gosh, what's really on my mind is every time I go into stand up, I really don't want to be there. I'm like, oh, well, let's talk about that. Why? You know? And those conversations are the really things that unlock the because everybody every day wakes up on different sides of the bed, right? And everybody, we all have, today is different than yesterday, and we all have, things that are going on in our life that can create barriers. And as managers, all we're trying to do is move those barriers out of the way, and let you try to be the best that you can be every day of your life.
Wonderful. Love it. Agreed. So let's think about that, talking about, engineers as, factory workers versus artists. You said something that I really like. You said you need to respect your engineers as artists, but also look for ways to help them optimize ways to produce code efficiently. That's true. Like we said, we want to elevate people, but at the same time, well, we have timeline, we have budget, and that's a hard reality, right? And you said the truth is there's nearly an infinite number of ways to build a product. Being clear about what you need to accomplish, but being more open-minded about how to get there will inspire you engineers. Artists work with purpose, autonomy, and strive for mastery. Treat your engineers like artists, but don't completely neglect the inefficiency of the factory workers side of the equation, right? I like that. My question is that can you talk a bit, of, for you, what's the right balance between creativity and productivity that you're looking for from your engineers in your team?
Yeah, I mean, I really love the word efficiency versus like, can you just go faster?
Yeah, yeah,
Right. And then I think there's accountability, I think, is another thing that helps drive sort of the productivity side of this, right? But if I were to step back a little bit, the thing that I think really pulls on the string of helping somebody be more creative is involving them with the problem as soon as possible. Let them be a part of that journey, and let them be a part of the creative process of doing the problem solving, right? Versus, showing up with a solution, however baked that is. You're pulling away. That you have to remember, engineers are artists. They do this job because they love solving problems. And solving problems just isn't a math equation. It's really understanding, like, what is my user trying to accomplish here, and how can I help that happen?
What
And
is my company mission? You talk about it in your book,
yeah,
What
but
is the
even when it comes down to a feature, right?
Yeah.
It's like, versus coming to a user and saying, hey, I need a button here that does X, Y, and Z. It's like, my user is trying to share this document with other people. What do we think the best way that we can do that, right? And of course, product managers, their role is to be, they're on the hook to making sure that we make the right decisions or learn the fastest way possible. So, like, engineers, you can be part of the equation, but it's going to be their jobs to make the final decisions, right? You have UI people who are, their jobs is to try to make this seamless as possible, but that doesn't mean you can't be part of the conversation, right? You just have to respect them when the decision is made. On the productivity side of it all, this is where the accountability comes in, right? And it's like, we could work on all problems forever, but that's not the reality of the world. We are here to build products, to create features, to delight our users, and we can't do that if they never see the product. Yeah. and so we have to draw a line in the sand and figure out when and how we're going to deliver something. But then it's not just about, like, okay, how much am I building, and when am I going to get that in front of the user, and how many edge cases am I not really solving for? But it's also all the process, right? There's all the things that go into building software, from defining the requirements, to agreeing that those are the requirements, to writing the software, to testing it, to doing the pull requests, reviewing the code, getting into production. So, it's our jobs as engineers. We see the stuff being made.
Yeah.
And if we see something that can be optimized to help something get in front of a user faster, we should raise our hands and say, hey, look, when I asked for, a code review on this thing, it took a day for somebody to pick it up. Let's talk about it as a team. Is like, I'm not going to yell at the person who ended up picking it up, but let's talk about it as a team. What can we do to optimize in order to make sure that people are picking these up faster?
100%. 100%. Engineers are not doers.
Right.
Totally. And I think that's my last question, actually, is for something you just say about process and team optimization process. The thing that you say in your book is basically that process is good, but don't over process it. Don't follow methodologies blindly, buy the book. Don't let processes blind you. Basically, this is what I understood. And you suggested some high-level guidelines that any team need to follow. So learn about agile development, keep the time your engineers spend in meetings to a minimum, do efficient postmortem, define dawn, right? Release feature, story, and so forth as often as you can. Use the concept of minimum viable product on an ongoing basis, right? So what's last question is, what's your relationship with processes and methodology, and what is the right balance between just the right amount of process and really over process?
I mean, a great process is one where it doesn't feel like you're in a process, right? Yeah. I think that's the real balance, is when you feel like you're in process, that is when there's bureaucracy that's happening that's not necessary. That's the rub. Everybody, when you don't understand the why you're doing something, when it comes to process, why are we doing this stand up? This is ridiculous. I learned nothing today. There was no value here, right? Then either, well, I won't say this. Stand ups are always necessary, right? I that's something I wouldn't stop doing.
Yeah. Whatever you are, yeah.
We aren't doing them right then. Yeah. Right? We need to change something. And I think the little sense on your neck is always like, we're doing something that's not valuable. And if you're doing something that's not valuable, you're either not doing it right or you shouldn't be doing it, right? And so process should be something that you don't even feel like there's part of it. Is a process at the end of the day.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, David. I think we're good to go to the Q&A right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Am I asking the question, or are you coming back, Robin? No, I think maybe it's on me too. Okay, I got it. Okay, good. So we have a first question from Bashar. I think you can see it, David.
No, nope, I don't see it. Sorry. It's okay.
So it's how can one bring in talent for startup? Keeping in view it's a startup company initially without any venture capital. So how to attract engineer when basically you don't have that much money, right?
Yeah. No, I mean that's probably one of the hardest problems out there, right? You have an idea, and you want to build something around it. You don't have a lot of cash, right? Um, Most of the time, you're probably looking for people who can help you on the side,
Yeah.
right? Uh, the best scenario is you have a buddy who it maybe just came off of another startup, made some money, is looking to do something new and different, and wants to join. I mean, that's always sort of the case, right? When I can take a year off, not make any money, and invest in this, right? If you have somebody who can financially is capable of doing that, that's always super helpful. But when that's not the case and you do have some funds, but like say, you can only pay 60, 70, 40, 50% of whatever like the market is paying. This is where you really have to find people who are invested in your mission, right? Creating a lot of clarity of like, why is your company, doing what it's doing and how is it going to really make a difference in the world, and getting people aligned behind that mission and constantly reinforcing it. A lot of people think that, oh, I've said the mission once, I told them during the interview process, they should know it, they'll never need to hear it from me again. You need to repeat it, you need to continuously reinforce. The reason why people leave organizations is just because there's something missing, right? And very rarely it's a dollar amount. It's usually it's a dollar amount if I really need it. Like if I'm taking care of my parents, or I'm having a kid, or there's some kind of event in your life where like there is a real desire for the dollars. But at the end of the day, if that's not the case, you have to find people who are super aligned with your mission, and then you need to reinforce it in a way that makes your own head spin because you've said it too much.
Yeah. Yeah, repeating. Hammering home, hammering home, hammering home. Right?
That's right.
Yeah, totally. So I have another question from Umar. One of the hot topics in building great engineering product is optimizing your product. How do you feel about that? How much effort should we put into optimizing before MVP is ready to launch into the market?
The least amount possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no magic. There's no magic here, right? Versus like, this is definitely an opinion, right? And everybody's going to have a different opinion. I'm a big proponent of less is more across the board, period, full stop. If I'm creating a login page, the only thing it does is log in, and everything else errors, right? And then I learn what's the biggest error that I need to fix next, right? If I'm creating a feature, the thing that you want to build out of that feature is one that helps you learn the most. The more you build, this is a fact, the more you build, the more you're painting your users into a corner on accepting the functionality that you've created versus giving them the opportunity to give you feedback on something you may have never ever thought of, right? So even though they're going to need a piece of functionality and that's going to be a part of it eventually, you can hold yourself back and not build it, right? It always feels uncomfortable, right? But I'm a big believer in like build less, learn more.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, this is all about, like you said, I think it's all about mindset and getting used to be uncomfortable, right? Because most of the time, the most of those product owners, engineers who who have like this kind of, they struggle to push faster in front of the customer. It was really because they didn't want to do something wrong, At the end of the day,
everybody wants to be right.
exactly. And us as leaders, we need to tell them it's all right. It's all right. What is not all right is to spend a year developing a product that nobody has ever seen and nobody has ever used. That is not right.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That is
But
correct. That is not right.
but we need to reinforce that every day. It's all right to be wrong. It's all right not to be perfect. That's our role
Yeah.
as technology leader. I guess we have another question from Michael. So, hi David, thanks for the enlightenment. What are your comments regarding time management and mastering as an engineer? So time management, I guess, is talking about what do you do during your week as an engineer? How much time you spend learning versus coding versus reviewing pull requests. I guess this is what Michael means.
Yeah. I mean, look, what I think helps always is creating accountability for yourself and then working backwards, right? I'm also a big believer that people should only be working on one thing at a time, right? If you have multiple things going on at the same time, then there's a lot of context switching and all of that, right? So you pick up one thing and you work on it until it's done, right? And um, every company is different on how they do accountability, but I do believe as an engineer, you should hold yourself accountable on wanting to deliver that one thing when you say you're going to deliver it, even if you say it to yourself. If you pick up an item, if you pick up an issue off of Jira or a backlog or however you're managing it, and it's a Monday, and you look at it and you say, wow, I can get this done by Friday. And then you look at your life and you're like, okay, I have to go to the dentist. I also want to invest in X, Y, and Z. This is how I'm going to manage my week, right? I'm going to put a deadline on hitting Friday, right? And then you work towards that. And then you don't kill yourself over not hitting Friday, you go to Monday or whatever. Don't give yourself a really hard time about that type of stuff, right? But I think self accountability will always push you to schedule your time correctly, right? And so the things that if you can give yourself that internal, and then the more public you can make that, the even better, right? If you can tell the rest of your team, and again, that's where the trust and the value of all of that comes into play, right? If the more you can create accountability, the more you'll be able to manage your own time.
100%. I think you said it. The first thing to be aware of is context switching is bad, right? Try to do one thing, but try to do it well, right? Whether it's for learning or to ship this piece of code, you need to be 100% focused because we are software engineers and we know that focus is everything, right? So we have another question from Maxwell. Hi, David. Thanks for your sharing. Please, how would you manage imposter syndrome as an engineer? That's a very good one.
Everybody has it, right?
Yeah.
I have imposter syndrome. When I wrote this book, I'm like, what do I know? I know nothing about this stuff. I walk into a room and we all have imposter syndrome. Period. And there's no magic. I mean, everybody has different personalities and different ways to deal with pressure and angst and all of those types of things. I think the easiest way to deal with it is to be crystal clear with people on what you know and what you don't know.
Yep.
And everybody started with Hello World and has grown from there, right? Everybody in the universe. And so we'll all learn together, and the more you can communicate what you know and what you don't know and what you want to learn and all of that, that will relieve that imposter syndrome a little bit, because then imposter syndrome comes from you thinking people have an expectation of you that you don't believe you can live up to.
Yep.
Clearing up that expectation will relieve that imposter syndrome.
Fantastic. Yeah, totally. Yeah. And like you said, I think if you are crystal clear of about what you know and what you don't know, and people are fine with that when they're hiring you, that's going to be fine. And what people want, leader wants, they want people that are who are curious, fundamentally curious, and they want to learn. But I think every good leader understand that you don't know everything. Like you said, nobody knows everything. You have 25-year experience, and when you were writing your book, you said, "What do I know?" Because
Yeah,
that's it's a broad topic, you know. It's a broad topic, software engineer, and that's all fine. Good, very good question. So we're gonna have a final question from Akim. So, what are the key factors to start a startup? A great idea, fund, budget, timing, market cap, I don't revenue. What is it for you?
yeah. It's a great question. I love this because, like, I know, some people, they have this desire to go build something. It's just kind of like the way they're built.
Yeah.
And you can wake up every day and like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm building today. Why am I building what I'm building? I find that the one of the best answers to this is passion, right? And a problem that you see in the world that needs to be solved, and even take it a little bit further, it's a problem that you even have, because if you have it, then somebody else probably has it, right? And then you need to go on the adventure to see, is this a viable business, right? Or are you going to be a charity, right? That there's that aspect of it too, right? Because but like, the word startup is definitely linked to raising money, to going public or selling or whatever it is. It's monetarily driven. So, if you have a passion for something, uh, the reason I love that, it's because all startups will have their ups and downs, right? And the way you get to your final answer is by you driving towards, that. And the passion is the things that will get you through the dips in any startup that you're running.
Fantastic. So I think we are done with the question, David. Thank you
Look at
so
that.
much.
We did it all on time too, didn't we?
We did. I think we have yeah, we've been right on.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here today, David. Thank you, Stefan. And thanks to everyone for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the talk as much as I did. It was awesome. So we're always looking for bringing new people into our community. So if you know someone who would enjoy these events or wants to get involved in the larger tech community, someone who might be interested to work on a mission, please let us know and refer them. Reminder that we have our referral program set up as a way of helping grow mission. We pay up to 5,000 USD for each referral. Every referral, you get another 500. I think I might have just said 5,000. I mean 500. You can find all the details at librarymission.dev or message me on Slack if you have questions. We're sending out a quick post-event survey, so hit the link, and we appreciate if you can take a minute to tell us how we did today. So thank you again, David. This was really, really great. And thank you, Stefan, for asking all of our questions.
Yeah,
Got
no,
questions for David. David, how could people find you? LinkedIn, how can we get you on social, or if they want to follow you, what you're up to?
yeah, no, LinkedIn's probably the best way. And I, not to use the term too much, but I'm an open book, and I love to talk to people who are either starting the career or starting, growing a company, or building a team. It's just my passion. I learn from people who are stumbling or learning or have been there and done that. And so reach out to me on LinkedIn, link with me, and say, hey, saw you at the Fireside chat. Would love to ask you a few questions. I'd be glad to do so.
That's awesome. Awesome. Everybody, you can hover over David's name and you should be able to get his LinkedIn, or it's in the Slack channel as well. We'll send that out to everybody. All
Excellent.
right.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Have a great
Have a good
day.
one.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Bye.